program is going to be on June 14th. And we're having a man named Stephen Wood, who began, you might have seen him, he was written up in the Connecticut magazine that we get through CPTV. Anyway, he began a hobby in 2006 to destroy the myth that there's nothing to do in Connecticut by visiting all of the 169 towns and touring the places and museums and writing humorously about them. He has already toured and written about Squire's Tavern, Center Schoolhouse, and the Nature Museum. He has a .org, and it's CTMQ, which stands for Connecticut Museum Quest. And you can go on there and look up a town, and they'll tell where he's gone. Let's see. He's going to come, and he's going to talk about how his hobby began and how it grew. And he writes in a unique way. There is one of his articles on our Facebook page, the Historical Society. And he began his one about Squire's Tavern with the headline of, "Not quite a Hitchcockian tale." So he's pretty funny. And he's on the center school. He said, "I went to school and learned something." So I'm sure that it'll be a very interesting evening with him. And our speaker tonight really doesn't need an introduction. You all know are now retired. First Selectman-Don Stein, who's been doing it for 16 years. And he's going to talk about his experiences in town and tell why he believes Bakhamsted is one of Connecticut's best communities. You can help yourself to refreshments after his talk is over.
So she said one thing wrong. It's not one of the best towns, it's the best town. So what this is sort of a random collection of recollections, pictures, and if I left anybody out, it wasn't on purpose, so don't feel bad, but I try to sort of capture the town in so many different ways, and so we'll see how it goes. And I also don't read from cards, I don't do a script. It's sort of random while I'm putting up pictures, so. And I guess I'll entertain questions when you want to raise your hand and ask, or you can wait until the end, whatever's easiest. So just to set the stage, if you look at the picture on the left, that's me in 6th grade. Ann Hutchinson School in Eastchester, New York, so that's my 6th grade picture. If you look at the middle picture, things have changed. That was my college fraternity, and for those who say they know about the movie Animal House, that was it. So that changed. And then finally, in 2008, Nancy Wyman, who was Secretary of State, swore me in, and you can see a lot of familiar faces in there. Obviously my wife Linda, my sister-in-law Carla. It wouldn't be as familiar as Maria Mulledy, Betty Murphy, who's passed away, etc., etc. But Nancy Wyman came to town and swore me in, so that was the start of the adventure. There we go. So this is up there just because when everybody talks about Bakhamsted, what do they think of? It's the gatehouse. And there's so many good pictures on Facebook, so many different views, the weather, the sun setting, the sun rising. But that's what we're known for everywhere. As most of you know, we do an annual report. So I did 16 of them. The first one showed artwork from local artists showing the old covered bridge. It showed fishermen. And the last one I did was for Phelps. And for those who don't know what Phelps is the Friends of the American Legion People State Forest. And by my standards, and I am a tough judge, it may be one of the best organizations I've ever been in. All it does is good things for the forest. It helps DEP and good people trying to do good deeds. So that was the last one that I did, the last annual report. This is boring data, but I figured I'd show it. So when I took over, we had 3,650 people in town. It went up for a couple of years, it went down for a bunch of years. And so now the town is about where it started 16 years ago in terms of population. What did change, and it's radical, is early on in the 2009, 2010, I'll move out here a little bit. The school had 350 kids, kindergarten through 6th grade, preschool. Now it's just a hair over 200. And that's because you look around the room, a lot of people with gray hair. But the good news is, when you look in the neighborhoods now, every time somebody moves, at least by what I've seen, a young family moves in with some preschool kids or about to have kids. So I think that's going to change, because the average age in town is going to change, because it's a good place to raise your kids. And it's known for that. It's got good education. Lower left-hand corner, for those, so the way the taxes work is, the tax assessor judges the value of all the houses, all the businesses. The grand list hasn't changed much in that time, but there was what's called a reval. And if you look at the reval, it went up for a while, then it came down. But it's been pretty flat. If you look at taxes, though, the taxes increased over that time, and everybody complains about taxes. But the taxes went up about the same as inflation did. People got raises, the cost of fuel oil went up, the cost of labor if you have to have something repaired, the cost of a new piece of, a new road crew truck, close to $200,000 to $250,000, which is mind-boggling. So the taxes had to go up, but we kept them pretty flat relative to inflation. Not that everybody's salary went up by that amount, but we had to do what we had to do. I will do only one slide on politics, but I hate politics. No offense. But party politics was never an issue for me. Never an issue on most of the boards in town. We had a lot of longevity, so now we're looking to find some new, younger volunteers, because a lot of the volunteers have been involved for a long time. So in my 16 years, Greg Cantwell was there for 4. Ray's been doing it now, you're in your 9th year, I think. 3rd term. You're starting your 3rd term. Or 7th term, because it's a 2-year term, you're right. Bill Downs did it for 4 years. Mark Hemingway did it for 4. Nick did it for 7 years, and now he's first selectman. Board of Finance, we had 3 people who were members throughout that period of time. And actually, I think Matt Kelly and Dave Malton may be up to about 25 years by now. Planning and Zoning, Chris Laveri's been chair as long as I can remember. Jim Hart's been on it. Johnny Polderman. So the good news, though, is that once you get on a board, once you volunteer, party politics almost never matter. You know, during the election season, people might say, hey, vote for me instead of so-and-so. But if you look, it works. In all that time, in 16 years, I think there probably was 1 non-unanimous vote. Because I believe in consensus. I think that works with most of the other boards, too. I'm not going to read all these names, but over the years, in the annual report, we honored different people. Some of whom unfortunately passed, some of whom are still with us. We honored the highway department 1 year. We've done a lot with the volunteer fire departments. And I think the only fire chief I see here is Mr. Bird hiding in the back. But, you know, we couldn't survive without our volunteers, whether it was the firemen or the ambulance corps. And the last one, Al Griswold, took over the youth baseball league about 9 years ago, and did a spectacular job of upgrading that stadium, which I helped build 40 years ago, which I think is one of the things that people know us for. That baseball stadium is spectacular. But Al Griswold was the latest honoree. Things that have changed and haven't changed. So the senior center looks sort of the same. But in 2008, there were 4 couples that did pretty much everything. Dave and Jan Ravazio, Bob and Julie Sullivan, Charlie and Sharon Lyons, and Terry Marie Marisky. So 16 years later, Julie Sullivan is still cooking in there, twice a week. And Terry Marisky at 95 years old still comes down to play pool. So more power to him. And we had there's new flooring here, there's a new patio, the kitchen's been upgraded, there's been some other upgrades. But the important thing about the senior center is what it does. It provides social life for seniors. They can come to meals, they can have breakfast, there's potlucks, there's blood pressure screening, things of that sort. And we do a lot of things for the kids, but this is one place that is good for the seniors to get some social activity. One of the things, but there's two things that's happened. One is the Lieutenant Governor now has been here in town twice, once here, once up at Regional 7 to honor our Korean War vets and to honor the Vietnam vets. And you can see Doug Roberts up there as a Korean War vet. Nancy Wynn, Terry Collins, a tax collector. Her mother was there because her father was being honored. And then Michael Ream, I think, was a Korean War veteran. The other thing they've started here, which is well attended, is that once a month they honor it doesn't have to be any era vet, it's just a vet who served. And usually there's 15 or 20 people here, the families are here, they do a flag ceremony outside. The next month they give that flag to the person who was honored the previous month. And that's been going on now 35 months or something like that. It's almost 3 years. And then we got the COVID. I tell Jeff Linton, who was school superintendent for a number of years, was retired the year before COVID hit. Jim Augustine, who's the current superintendent, came in just in time to deal with COVID. So if you look, I won't ask people to raise their hand, but any people who've heard of Zoom, that's where you learned about Zoom. Because families were having family get-togethers over Zoom, friends were getting together over Zoom. We did, down below you see, we did weekly emergency management Zoom calls where we had the selectmen, we had the fire chiefs, we had the ambulance corps, we had school. We would have 15 or 20 people on the Zoom call every week to talk about what comes next. We sell masks and test kits everywhere. The state provided us both. We handed them out free. People learned how to work from home. And now a lot of people don't want to go back to the office. I'm not sure I blame them. The school closed for a few months. It was only remote. But after that, it became hybrid. If the kids had to wear masks, but if they were sick, they stayed home. If they weren't sick, they were allowed to come to school. And the only thing that I think I heard complaints about was snow days sort of disappeared. Because they could do schoolwork from home, so they didn't have a snow day. We canceled the Earth Day Festival, the Christmas Carol Play. The senior center shut down. But you know what? Once again, volunteers looked out for the townspeople, the firemen, etc. The Praise Christian Church had vaccine clinics there every couple of weeks for the whole, the health district came in and set it up. Now they're doing blood drives there. But people took care of each other. They took care of their friends, they took care of the community. And that's what makes this a great town, is that people really care about each other. And I'm not going to ask you to read this, but we got $1.067 million from the COVID money from the federal government. There's a list of about 25 projects there, ranging from a lot of projects for the firemen, turnout gear. There's some other, somewhere up there. There was about 6 projects for the fire departments. We did some work for the school. We gave some money for the ambulance corps, for New Hartford, and some of the historical churches in town got money to do repairs, very needed repairs to roofs of the building. But we got to spend $1.067 million thanks to the federal government. And it made such a difference to our budgets because a lot of those things, like trees, if you look halfway down, you had $80,000 in there for trees. And most of us know that there's so many dead trees in town that they could spend every day going around and cutting down trees. But we spent money that would have had to come out of the town's tax money. So that was the one benefit of COVID that I can think of. This is my favorite. We tried for years to get the Route 318, Route 219 intersection fixed. So if you look at the yellow stripes, it used to be you came out of New Hartford on 219. If you wanted to go west, you'd go up and make a left turn on 318. If you wanted to continue north, the people coming across 318 came to an intersection where you hurt your neck looking around to see if anybody was coming up there. We tried, Jim Bonetti, who was the resident trooper at the time, and it took us about 5 years to convince him to do it. And for those who drive that way every day, it's a pleasure. You don't worry about getting T-boned, rear-ended. And the only thing they did at first is they didn't put a left turn lane there. So people would stop and with their blinker on and we convinced them to widen it a little bit. So there's a left turn lane there and it works. I got, I think, one complaint that it wasn't as pretty or historic as it used to be. But it survived, right. The other thing, not quite as spectacular as the intersection was, we did knock down the old 1955 state building. There was a town garage. And if you looked at that, they could not store trucks inside and work on them. So during the winter, during the snow, they stored them outside. So we knocked that down. The quote to build a new garage, which I think probably everybody in the room has been in the community room and the conference room at least one time, because that's used nonstop. We can store all the equipment in there. We have we can do welding in there. We can do pretty much anything you would want done on your trucks to maintain them. There's a truck washer in there. So it really made a big difference to the highway department and their ability to do their jobs. In that front room, there, is used constantly by a lot of different organizations. If you have a town meeting that's too big for the town hall, you can go there if you can't go to the school. So that was a good project. And I have to admit, the contractor came in on time and within budget. There were no extras. I didn't actually map this out to see how many miles of road we repaved. The yellow is the repaving that's been done. You can see some of the Park Road was probably the biggest one. And the other problem in Park Road that we managed to fix was the culvert there where Jim Hart's house washed out during one of the big storms, and I have a picture of that. And so we had to fix the culvert, add another second culvert in there, and repaved about 4 miles of road. Old New Hartford Road, Robertsville Road, a little bit on the east side of town, but I think if you measured that, it's probably about a third to a quarter of the town's roads. And everybody says my road should be next, my road should be next, but we try to do the worst ones. So I mentioned the ARPA money. We also get something from the state called STEEP, Small Town Economic Assistance Program. So from the federal government, I mentioned the $1.06 million from ARPA. If you were behind the Riverton Inn after a big storm, the stream that comes down from Mountain Road starts out in American Legion Forest, comes down, goes under the Riverton Inn parking lot, and ends up in the Farmington River. We got $500,000 for repairing that stream, making it so that it wouldn't wash out the Riverton Inn, the parking lot, the road. We just got in this year's budget, thanks to Congressman Larson, $1.6 million. I'm going to have to move my leg occasionally because I have a bad back and my leg starts to hurt. So you see me jittering a little bit. Congressman Larson put $1.6 million in the budget for the affordable housing that we're looking at on Old New Hartford Road for infrastructure, which is a huge start. STEEP grant. We put the composting toilet in Riverton, school playscape, working on the Farmington River riverbank. I'll talk more. We're running water lines from Winstead into Bakhamsted. We have generators in all the town buildings. And then the paving I mentioned, a lot of that was done with steep money, not town money, and then culvert repair. The steep, and those are competitive grants, and we've been pretty successful as a town. And even before me, Mike Fox got the streetscape in Riverton using a steep grant to do sidewalks and lights and, you know, crosswalks and that sort of thing. So the steep grants, you can see that again, the list that you can't read on the right side. But that's steep grants that we used all over the place. There were some other grants. This was Erica took a picture of the computer, the Selectman's computer, because there's a folder in there for all the grants so that, you know, you can find what you're looking for. But just as examples, and I think, Mr. Bird, that was your tree, right? That's the rumor I heard. So you can see the size of that tree and the fact that it was totally hollowed out. The culvert on Park Road that I mentioned, that was the before, and now if you look at the after, there's one big square culvert and another round culvert. We did one year, we did East West Hill, Leggett Road, and Ratham Road culverts because the beavers were constantly filling up the pond and overflowing the road. And for example, the Ratham Road one, you can't see it in the picture, but it is a fire pond. So the firemen can use it to pump water out of, so they've got to keep water in it. The funny story is on Leggett Road, for those who know, there's a very nice bridge culvert out there. And while they were doing it, the beavers were watching. So they knocked down the beaver dam, the construction crew. The beavers would be upstream staring. That night they would rebuild the dam. And they went on for about a week, every day. And then finally the beavers gave up. They finished the bridge. Now if you go up there, I don't have a picture over here, but it's a beautiful pond, swamp, and the beavers got their way when all was said and done. So it's just so funny to go. You see the beavers sitting on the bank staring. And the other thing that, down the lower right-hand corner, if you go behind the school, there's a very nice playscape area that got put in under a steep grant, and there's some volunteer help. Billy Langer came down and did a lot of excavation. And there was a couple of work party weekends when there was 20 or 30 people there putting this together, shoveling fill to make it all work. And that's another thing. You see projects like this, the Little League field just put in a new snack bar, a couple of bathrooms, things like that. You had to hire contractors, but they were all local contractors and a lot of volunteer work was done there. And then West Hill Dam, the DEP got after us because it was turning dangerous, so we had to go in and rebuild the dam so that it went where the water went where it was supposed to go and didn't undercut the road. There's a lot of words here. I hate the slides with a lot of words. If you look at the farm that used to be behind the shopping center, the farmhouse is still there. The Bakhamsted Housing Trust bought 99 acres, the remainder of the farm. And that was done with what's called the Community Development Block Grant, CDBG. And that covered purchasing land, and it covered the non-recurring engineering, architecture, design work. So we should be ready to go out to bid. We were supposed to be ready to go out to bid last fall, but nothing ever happens on time. The funding for the construction will start out with that $1.6 million in this year's federal budget. And the estimate is it'll be about a $5 to $6 million project. But there will be more money available from the state, and ultimately there will be a mortgage. And the thing that I think people don't realize is the town has no involvement financially in this. It's purely a private venture. The Bakhamsted Housing Trust is a private nonprofit corporation, and it'll be 20 units, 12 two-bedroom apartments, 4 one-bedroom, and 4 three-bedrooms. And it's not just seniors apartments, but it's for people who meet certain income thresholds. And my expectation, to be honest, is it'll be mostly seniors. But it's not, when you take money from the government, you can't limit it to just the seniors. And so that's the area behind the shopping center. And we tried to make this look as close to rural and close to the farm country as we could. So that's what what the buildings are going to look like. We got solar panels on the roof of the school. We looked at needing a new roof, and we went around and around. Did we want shingles? Did we want a metal roof? Did we want solar panels or not? And we ended up getting a metal roof with the solar panels. It was $1.85 million. 43% was covered by the state under school construction grant, and we only had to borrow 10 years. And we're saving at least 50% of the annual electric bills. So we would have had to put in a roof anyway, so it costs a little bit more to do the solar, but then you wouldn't, if you didn't put them in, you wouldn't save the money on the electric bill. Every town building, the school, the town hall, the 3 firehouses, the town garage, this building, we got generators. So, right now, the official shelter for the town is the school. We are a very stubborn town. We have never opened up a shelter in my 16 years. And we would use the food in the cafeteria. There's room for people to sleep. We have cots. But you have to have pets caged in a separate floor. And if you know the school, there's the downstairs area. But in any case, the generators are a big plus. And I applied for a generator for the school in the town, I think it was. And the estimate I got was so high, and when we ended up getting it done with the real estimates, we got about 4 generators for the price of 1. And I was just shocked because I'd gotten the quote on what we wanted from a legitimate contractor. But when we went out to bid, it came in cheaper. So, if you see all the town buildings, you'll see some are propane, some are diesel, but they all have generators to keep going during the emergencies. Broadband, Frontier was supposedly going to do the entire town. They did some to the west of the reservoir, or my side of the reservoir. They keep saying this year they're going to do it, but I don't know if I believe them or not.
Right.
But all the town buildings have a fiber optic network from what's called the Connecticut Educational Network, and that's in the school, all the town buildings, and all 3 firehouses. Well, we did get Frontier in here.
Yeah,
So
very
this
fast.
has Wi-Fi now that it didn't used to have,
Very fast.
because it's fiber optic. So, do you have it on your road? Jim?
No.
They're not doing the underground utilities yet. So, all of us who have underground utilities on our roads, it's a 50-50 proposition. Riverton has gone through a rebirth, I think. Hitchcock chair moved, but that building just has a new, it's called the Shops of Riverton. It's got 60 vendors in there. A lot of arts and crafts and almost anything you can imagine. It's 3 stories full of individual vendors. And if you go there, it's hard not to spend money. There's a new gift shop next to the Riverton General Store in the little L-shaped area next to the store. Rose's Kitchen is still going, but it became a bakery several years ago, and that's still alive and well. The Riverton Inn, they did a wonderful job of redoing that building. The food is excellent, and so it's always busy there. There is a new owner starting June 1st, but it's a woman who worked there from the start, so they don't expect any changes. The Riverton store still makes great sandwiches. And I can't resist this, we did put a bathroom in the Riverton. So, right there. And a lot of people were very thankful, the fishermen in particular were very thankful. People really wanted to go hiking, because that was the only bathroom for several miles. So that was a steep grant also. I mentioned, Mallory Brook Plaza, the owner, by the name of John Sinise, paid to bring the sewer lines from Winstead to right behind the shopping center for his shops and for the Ford dealer across the road. And he paid 100% of that. Which was nice because we didn't want to spend any money. What we're doing now is with a combination of a steep grant, and when you do steep grants, it's not 100% funded. You have to do what's called cost share. The town has to spend some money. So the water lines should be put in either late this summer, early fall. They're going to service the shopping center. The Ford dealer has a wonderful well and doesn't want water, but he needed sewer. And that'll come to right behind the shopping center also. When the housing trust builds the development, the water and sewer will be available, and they'll pay to bring it from the point in the road up to the development. We have some new stores: Ollie's, Dollar General, O'Reilly's. But we lost the movie theater. But I think most movie theaters everywhere are in trouble because people would rather sit home on their couch with their beer or their coffee by their side, and they can pause it if they need to take a break, whatever. The movie theaters are not doing well. And one really big deal is that Tractor Supply was going to move to Winstead as of a year ago. They were going to move to the back of the parking lot where Stop and Shop is. And we worked pretty hard on this one. And actually, John Sinise, who owns the shopping center, worked even harder because he didn't want to lose Tractor Supply and got saved. So
How did they save it? How did they save it?
How did he save it?
Yeah.
He made him a better deal. Where they wanted to put it at the back of the Stop and Shop Plaza was a terrible place. It was wetlands, it was hard to get to. So what he's going to do is knock down the movie theater and put in the new style Tractor Supply, which is a smaller store and a bigger outdoor garden equipment area. So that's good to go. Losing that to Winstead, as much as we like Winstead, would not have been a good move for us. Our state forest, I didn't even think there was much we had to say about it, except that a lot of people don't know that Enders and Tungus exist, because most people are used to Peoples and American Legion. That's some Phelps volunteers putting in a boardwalk across the wet area. But you know, what people know about Bakhamsted besides the dam is that you can hike, you can camp, you can picnic, you can fish. And that's one of the things the town is known for. I mentioned Phelps. That's their mission statement down at the bottom: to enhance, advocate, and encourage use and awareness of the two forests. If you go up there, and you can park fairly close for those who don't want to hike. There's two boardwalks, one that goes out into the Beaver Brook swamp area, and it's got a seating area out at the end of it so you can sit there and look at nature. And then if you go north, there's a new one that follows the trail up to Beaver Brook Road. It used to be you'd have to get on the road and walk up the road to where it went back into the woods. Now it goes through the swamp, and you get into the swamp and you think you're in a different world. So that's some of the things Phelps does, and also there's a lot of tree clearing and tree cutting and trail maintenance that takes place. Earth Day, Jenny Apples had this vision about, this would have been the 10th year, except we lost 2 years for COVID. So usually there's somewhere between 600 and 800 people who come. This is the first year we had the sun. It's been amazing. That every date she picks, it's been rainy, windy, nasty. This year was beautiful. And almost every year we had the, I forget what you call it, Christine Spritters. This is a young woman who, while she was in high school, took on the idea of rescuing birds and making them well. So she has an American eagle that she fixed. You know, it can't fly, but it's alive and well. She brings in hawks and all, you know. It's an interesting show. Usually there's about 20 or 30 booths. Phelps is usually giving away birdhouses for kids. The MDC has usually been there. The state DEP has been there. We've always given away free food, hot dogs and home-baked cookies and the like. So it's just a very nice community day, and it's usually well attended. And of course, we have our 4th of July parade. We're the only one in the state. And Wilmington, down in the lower left-hand corner, has organized a band, I don't know how many years, but since I've been in town, called the Star Band. And they practice one night, and then they're a marching band, and they do a great job. John, you might know, Debbie says it started when she was a kid. And there were kids would ride their bikes and all that, and it just evolved. It's been, what, 50 or 60 years?
Well, I think the early 60s.
Early 60s?
I think when Mr. Ackley was here earlier, when he worked here, I think there was some way like in the 40s.
But we're the only 4th of July parades in the state, which is sort of a nice thing. And we've had everywhere from Joe Lieberman here when he was running for office, to local politicians, to no politicians. You know, whoever shows up gets the money. Okay, I'm getting there. You're one ahead of me. So it's a wonderful small town event. I believe the gentleman in the upper right-hand corner that I was giving the plaque to, I think he was there for his son who was in the military and couldn't be there, if I remember correctly. Lighthouse. I assume everybody in the room knows what the Lighthouse community is. But in 2015, they brought, I don't know how many, somewhere between 50 and 75 descendants here. And they marched in the parade. Then they had a afternoon picnic up at People's Forest. And, you know, it's a very well-known archaeological, started back in the late or early 1700s. And over the years they have, you know, people who are descendants have migrated around the country. They're coming back in 2025. They were supposed to come in 2020, but again, COVID got in the way. But if you look in the lower right-hand corner, that's Regine LeBrie. He was president of the Lions Club at the time. He and I had to smoke the peace pipe. And I hadn't smoked in 35, 40 years. He had never smoked. It was the most disgusting tasting tobacco. I went looking for a piece of gum and he was trying not to throw up. Some of the things we had going, these are sort of random. Pickleball has taken hold. We put 2 courts in the school gym for the winter season. The kids have a ski program over at Sundown once a week for 6 weeks. Youth baseball, karate, jiu-jitsu, and Stancliffe Cove, which, in my experience, kids love to go there until they're 14, then they think they're too old. But it's a great, great place for people to go hang out, swim, picnic. And that happens to be one of the more beautiful days, and I think that was a really nice picture. We tried a couple of other things that I was sorry didn't succeed. We did a skating rink. The first year we put it on the school playground. Turns out it was over the septic tank, septic field, so things didn't freeze at all. And then 2 more years went behind the school, and you can see we had ice. Back when the tennis court used to be, we did have ice. But just people lost interest. And then we did a haunted house for a couple, 2, 3 years up at the Hitchcock building. And that was fun because you had, as you can see, kids of all ages would get costumes. They set up a walk through the first floor of the Hitchcock building. But then the space was no longer available because Hitchcock moved back into it for a while. Riverton Fair, not much to say except that I got sucked into sitting in a duck tank one year. But the volunteer fire department's there every year, selling hamburgers, hot dogs, and things of that sort. And usually Friday night's the big night because they sell wrist bracelets for the kids to ride whatever they charge, it's $8, $10. The kids get to ride the rides all night for just that one bracelet. So that's the busiest night. And lastly, I said it earlier, the residents, the town employees and volunteers, they really care about the community and their neighbors, and that's what makes us the best town around. What did I forget? Or what did I do wrong?
You know I didn't agree. No, I think, the one thing I think we forgot to mention, I think was a huge miss during the campaign. They had a grant. And right during the election season, when I first ran for the board, which was 2011, you remember the October surprise?
Oh, yeah.
The blizzard, the Halloween blizzard, it absolutely crippled the town.
Yeah.
But just like COVID, we got through that with a lot of efforts, a lot of volunteers. And I remember, one funny part I remember was I was down in town hall calling people to see if they were doing all right. Because I mean,
Can't hear you back
there
here.
was no phone service, there was no nothing.
Can't hear you.
And so I was down in town hall, and Debbie Bryden gave me a list of people to call randomly. Are you okay? They were mostly rather elderly senior citizens. And I can't tell you how many calls they hung up and said, "Why are you bothering me? I'm perfectly fine." And that's this town, which is a beautiful thing about it.
He mentioned, snowstorms and blizzards and ice storms. Our highway department is there and they get it done. And the fire department is there and get it done. Ted?
That 4th of July parade started in the late 50s. It was started by John R. Reitmeyer, Colonel Reitmeyer, who lives on West River Road. And George Reverend Acton.
I can't hear you.
Okay, start by who? The 4th of July parade was started in the late 50s, probably 58 or 59, by Colonel Reitmeyer, who was the president and publisher of the Hartford Courant. His nephew, Terry Montgomery, was one of the children. My neighbor, Margot Fenn, was in the parade. She had a girlfriend who was dressed in a cowgirl outfit with cap guns at her side. They had an American flag, they had a bugle, and they had a drum. And that was the beginning of the parade. And it's been going on ever since, and it's wonderful.
Thank you, Ted. That's a great idea. Not a great idea, but it's a great idea back then, and then look at what it's become now. All right, everybody go get some food.
Thank you, Don.